Hey guys, we're out here having fun with our C7 Corvette at LS Fest West 2022 in Las Vegas, Nevada. Last time we did an update on the Corvette here, we did the Hooker Blackheart catback exhaust and the intake, both Holley products. Since then, we've completed the exhaust with the Holley Blackheart long tube headers and MSD Atomic intake manifold. Now, because we did those, we also had to get the car tuned, so we took that to Church Automotive Testing in Wilmington, California, and we got a lot of power out of the thing. Oh my.
Yeah, we got 486 wheel horsepower and 481 foot-pounds of torque. Typically at that dyno, a stock C7 makes just over 400 horsepower. So I mean, that's like 80 horsepower with bolt-ons and tuning, so that's pretty amazing. One of the things that they told us that I thought was really interesting is that your car makes more power than like one of the older Corvettes with the LS7. And LS7 is the naturally aspirated GM motor, and that's pretty amazing to me.
With the modern LT motors in particular from GM, but this applies also to some of the other domestics as well, and to most of the European cars, torque management is really the key to everything, right? Mm-hmm. So the engine has a model, the ECU has a model for how the engine operates, and it predicts how much torque the engine's going to make at a given boost level or RPM or ignition timing level. There's literally 20, 30 factors that feed into that torque calculation. And then there's a torque demand table that's basically based upon the driver's throttle pedal, right? Mm-hmm. So it has that torque demand table, and if it sees torque exceeding that torque demand, then it's going to do things to limit it. It might pull some timing out, it might limit throttle a little bit, it might do some different stuff. And that's how you make a car that maybe the engine's capable of making 500, but you rated at 480, and pretty much every model is going to make 480 because it's always going to be hitting that number. Even if the car's a little more powerful, you know, it's going to dial it back. So when we start to modify cars then, that torque management can become a real hindrance if you don't know how to use it. Mm-hmm. On the GM cars, for example, the LT motors, torque management timing reduction actually shows up as knock retard in the data logs.
Oh, really?
And so a lot of guys who maybe don't have the experience with those engines start desensitizing knock sensors to try and get rid of that knock retard because they're sure there's no way it can be knocking. They put some high octane in. And that may help a little bit, but it's not actually addressing the true problem, which is telling the car you want more torque and allowing it to make more torque. And then there's even little things like throttle management, right? Mm-hmm. And not just torque stuff, but the factory GM calibration limits throttle below 3,000 RPM on an LT1. So we'd only get up to 60% throttle before we get to 3,000 RPM before it lets us go full. Now on a stock car, that's probably about as much throttle as you need to get all the airflow you need to get the maximum output there. But as soon as you start modifying things, you might be choking off. And in fact, when you look at the dyno charts, I think we picked up 30 or 40 pound-feet of torque below 3,000 RPM, and a big part of that's letting it go wide open throttle with the mods we have now. The two biggest things for the power gains we made today were the fueling. Obviously, we had to correct the mass airflow calibration, and then the torque management. You know, timing got us a couple horsepower here, a couple horsepower there, but it was pretty close to optimized, right? And it was all about getting that, telling the engine we want more torque and telling it how much torque it was actually making, right? And then it's allowed to make more torque now, and then making sure the fuel was there so it could make proper power. That was probably 90% of the gains.
All this stuff will be in an article, so you can read about all the mods that we've done since the last time we had this thing out on MotoIQ.com. And yeah, let's get on to the event. So this year at LS Fest West, we're participating in the Grand Champion competition. And what that is you basically get to do a little bit of everything. There's an autocross, there's something called the track cross, there's drag racing, and then there's a 3S challenge, which we'll explain in a minute. So first thing we got here Friday morning, we did autocross. Since the last time we had this thing out, it was at Buttonwillow. What did we have to do to get it ready for autocross?
So at Buttonwillow, it was pretty much set up for road course use and a different tire. So we have the Falken RT660s right now, which is a legal tire for this event. Our other tires wouldn't have been legal. One of the cool things about the Falcons is they're really good grip right out of the hole from cold. In this kind of event, you don't have an out lap, you don't get to warm up your tires, so cold performance is really important, and these tires are perhaps like maybe the best at that of any tire we've experienced so far. The next thing is that it's a different tire, different setup. We had to find what tire pressure worked right, so we spent a lot of the first day messing around with a pyrometer and getting Jeff's feedback and finding the right tire pressures. It ended up being 32 in the front and 30 in the rear. These Falcons like a higher pressure than other tires we have experienced, so we had to kind of find what worked with the car. As the day progressed, I reduced the compression damping in the rear KW Club Sports to get Jeff a little bit more bite, like out of some of those slow turns. We could do that and not sacrifice too much of the body roll and things like that. So overall, little incremental changes, but they probably made a difference you could feel, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, a lot of this is getting used to seat time and getting used to the car, so it's kind of, without being very consistent, it's hard to kind of tell back and forth, but I love these tires, man. They're so predictable. I got nothing but good things to say about them, both on this car and on our Integra that we took out to test at Buttonwillow. Make sure you check out that video if you haven't already. So the first day we had rain, so that kind of limited the autocross the first day. But again, good seat time in the car. But then we got to do it again on Saturday, and I mean, I think if we had a few more runs, we would have been a lot more competitive. I mean, every single time we went out, we got incrementally better. So the second part of the day, the rain went away and we did a thing called track cross, which is they take a segment of the road course at Las Vegas Motor Speedway and they kind of make like a little autocross course out of it. So you got a few turns, and then like in the straightaways they put cones, so you have to slalom around those, slow you down a little bit. But overall, a lot higher speeds. You get to feel the transitions and things, and that kind of the steady kind of cornering and stuff that you don't necessarily get in the parking lot doing autocross.
And we found that the same settings we used in the autocross actually worked really good. So yeah, the car was handling really well. I mean, you can kind of tell, like, not much understeer, controllable oversteer, body roll and body movement was nicely controlled, and the car was really good on the bumps. Like, I could tell a lot of the other cars were bouncing around and they weren't even visible. Like when you're going over them, the car didn't even move. The car seemed so composed, it actually kind of looked slow out there, and when you saw the times, they're going, oh, you're not doing too bad.
The car felt really composed. It gave me a good opportunity to practice, like, I guess, like, these cars like to be driven with the throttle, like to help steer with the throttle. And so, coming from driving a lot of front-wheel drive cars, that's relatively new to me. And it's nice to be able to have practice getting used to that and letting it rotate more, because that's how it wants to be driven. Events like this are great. I mean, yeah, it's a competition, but it's great practice just for everything. I mean, you get to do, the drag racing, you get to, throw the car around like tight stuff, and then you also get to do the, the high speed stuff, which is awesome.
It's also pretty safe too. Like, there's not too many places where you can really mess up your car.
So then we go to drag racing. Friday and Saturday night for the Grand Champion competition. All the competitors get 1 hour and up to 3 passes down the drag strip, and you have to do it to get points for the Grand Champion. And I pretty much blew it all. Friday night we went out. I guess because my splitter is so low, I couldn't stage properly, so I thought I was staging, but as soon as I got the first light, then it went off, and then the other one went on, but that was actually when my tire was going on. I had no idea what was going on in the tree. And the other car in the meantime had fully staged, and I guess there's a deal where if the other guy's staged and you're not, you got 10 seconds to do it or else it red lights, and then I don't get a time. So that happened to me. I didn't get a time, even though that was probably my cleanest run. So then I got one more run that night because the time ran out, and I missed third gear. which was a bummer. But Mike, what did we do different to get the car ready for drag racing?
Well, we did some tricks to the tires, like from our experience in Formula D. We know that the Falken RT660 can run a really low tire pressure without debeating or without crowning weird. So by our testing at FD, we know that 12 PSI gives the maximum forward grip. So we lowered your rear tire pressure to 12 pounds. We used the adjustability of the KWs, and we took out all the rear compression and all the front rebound to get you some dynamic weight transfer. And you could probably feel that hook out of the hole, right?
Oh, definitely. Yep. Yeah, you could definitely feel the rear end squat. It went like there was no wheel hop or anything. It felt great.
So that's one of the cool things about the KWs is you can independently adjust compression and rebound damping. So you could do stuff like that. Like a regular shock, I mean, you really couldn't. And when you reduce the overall damping, you get things like wheel hop and car gets squirrely, things like that. But with the KWs, it's pretty stable, right?
Yep, for sure. Saturday I didn't do any better. We only got one run. Someone blew up on the track or hit the wall and messed everything up. So I got one run and I missed third again. But I still pulled off a 13.3, I think. But the 60-foot time was pretty good, which is another testament to the tires and the setup.
Getting used to this car, manual transmission, never having drag raced it before, and on street tires, and street tires are pretty slippery on the drag strip. I mean, you were doing two 60-foots, and I think with practice you could easily get into the sub 2 second range, which is really good for non-drag radial.
And since I did some Googling, and it looks like maybe my shift problem could be the way I'm holding the shifter. Apparently, I think I was probably holding it like a pistol grip, and from what I've read on the forums, it says this car wants you to push it with like an open palm that way. Don't even try to guide it, it'll do itself. So next year I'll try and remember that and try that.
And then running 13s, like totally missing shifts, is pretty respectable, I think.
And I had to shift into fourth right at the end. Like I was almost made it in third gear, but I need more power so I can use all fourth gear. God damn it!
Yeah, no, I mean, this car right here, as it sits, without any actual changes, not even drag radials, I mean, I'm pretty sure with some practice you can get low, mid-12s out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember what they're supposed to do stock, but I think they're supposed to be in the 12 stock, but yeah. I should get better regardless. To end on a great note, Sunday is entirely reserved for the 3S Challenge for the Grand Champion competition. And what that's 3 S's is speed, steer, and stop. And they take the same area that the autocross was in. You got 2 lanes, you basically drag race up to 2 90-degree turns, and then you drag race back and you got to slam on the brakes and stop in a box. And whoever does that the fastest wins. And it's going to go all day long. I only did 3 or 4 runs, but I didn't see a whole lot of cars doing it below 17 seconds. Yeah. And my last 2 passes, I got a 17.0 and a 16.9. So when I did that, I was like, I'm done.
What's really interesting is, these late model cars, especially this car with the GM Performance big brakes, with the ABS, they can stop incredibly quick. Like all the really trick pro touring muscle cars, I mean, you flipped them all just about.
Well, you just saw them smoking the top, they were just...
Yeah, I didn't see one pro touring car even come close to your time. And some of those cars are really trick. They do really good in a lot of the events here. But with the ABS. Now, remember when we were at Buttonwillow and Karla was able to fade the brakes at Buttonwillow with the street performance pads that GM Performance provided. Now, these weren't track pads, but street pads. So now that you're doing this like autocross and 1 lap at a time kind of thing, how are the brakes suited for this kind of use?
They're great. I had no fade problems at all. I mean, obviously they probably weren't even getting hot, but I mean, I haven't driven a lot. I mean, this is my I don't really have a lot of new cars, so I mean the ABS in this thing was amazing. Like you were telling me to just go and just jam on the brakes coming into the turns. Like that was counterintuitive to me. It's like I don't want to get into the ABS, like, but it's amazing how well they work. And you know, I hear people say that they can stop faster with their foot than ABS. Like there's no way. Like this, it's amazing. Like I was going way deeper than I thought I should be going. But worst comes to worst, I'm going to hit a cone. But I mean, both times I didn't blow the stop box, and I think the last time the guy said like, "Whoa, you were this close to the cone." So
I mean, just smoking all the pro touring cars shows that you can't beat a human can't outdo ABS.
Yeah, and I'm not a good driver. I mean, I'm not good at this, and I was able to rip off a 16. So it's cool that you can have like, I mean, an event like this where you get some cars are better at some things than others, and I don't know, it was really fun. Like, and I think I said it before. Like, it's a great event just for practice. Like, you get to do a little bit of everything. And it's a great weekend, man. I love this event. It's probably my favorite event we do every year.
So next year, I think we're going to come back with more power. We're going to like install all the parts we have at the shop still. The GM Performance heads, CNC ported, the GM Performance cam. That should give you another 50 horsepower. We're going to go to flex fuel. We're going to have a lot more power across the whole power band, and you're going to work in your driving, right?
Yeah, I got to get out to some track events. But now having done this, I mean, I took this out the button wheel once, and I never got comfortable with the car. Like, I mean, it was immediately going fast, and there wasn't any like practice to see how it handled at the limit. And now that I did this, I definitely gained a lot more confidence in myself and the car. And if I do some more events in the next 12 months before we come out here again, I think it's gonna help a lot for sure.
So next time we're gonna be a little bit more serious, but we'll still have fun.
True. Anyway, that's all we got from Vegas. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps us a lot. And we'll see you back at the shop.